So I just wanted to welcome you guys to this part of today's conference. We're going to go over just PSPRS board, committee, and our staff operations. I'll introduce or tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Nate Weber. I work for Tucson Fire Department. I'm a captain. I've worked with Tucson Fire for about 25 years. I'm also one of the vice presidents to the Tucson Firefighters Association. I oversee the areas of wages and benefits. I serve on the Tucson Fire and the Corona de Tucson Fire District Local Board for their PSPRS local boards. I'm also the chairman of the Fire Board for Corona de Tucson. Corona de Tucson is kind of far southeast outside of the city of Tucson, based at the Santa Rita Mountains, if you know where that's at. It's a beautiful area, small community, close to the city, but far enough away. I am the board chair also for the Tucson Firefighters Deferred Compensation Board and Plan. And then I also serve on the PSPRS Operations, Governance, and Audit Committee, which we're going to talk about some of the committees as we go through this presentation. And myself, I was appointed by the Speaker of the House, Rusty Bowers.
Hi, I'm Mike Smarik, the Deputy Administrator for PSPRS. Been here, next week I'll be with PSPRS 3 years. Been with the state, though, for 40-plus years, working for a couple of other agencies, Department of Administration, Department of Corrections. I have served previously as a member of the ASRS Board of Trustees and served on local boards. When I was with the Department of Corrections, I was actually the chair of the Department of Corrections local board. And been on the state's Deferred Compensation Board for multiple years. And I'm glad to be here, and thank you all for coming and attending. And I know a lot of you have come from pretty far away to get here today, so I hope we're giving you a lot of good information that you can take back to your workplace.
I'm Clark Partridge. I've been with PSPRS for about 2.5 years now, and former state comptroller. Had the pleasure of working with Mike for a long time. And I will just tell you, they don't come any better than Mike. I would trust him with my life. I've said that multiple occasions, and I think I still would trust him with my life. But had the opportunity to be on the Board of Trustees for ASRS as well, another fine run organization. I think we're spoiled here in Arizona to have our retirement system so well run. We always need to make sure that we don't take that for granted, because when we have 2 of the top retirement systems in the country, that speaks well of Arizona, and I think Arizona's public servants are in good hands.
Let's go into this slide that just talks about who manages PSPRS. PSPRS is a 9-member board of trustees. It was formerly 7. That was changed in 2016 with the pension reform. It's split between 4 PSPRS members, 4 public agency reps, and 1 appointee. 5 are appointed by the governor, 2 by Senate President, 2 by the House Speaker. All are nominated by direct stakeholders. On our board, we have 2 law enforcement. At least one of them must be an elected local board member. Same thing with 2 firefighters. 3 members representing cities and towns. They shall represent taxpayers and employers and may be or may not be members. 1 member representing counties, and again, shall represent taxpayers or employers and may not be members. 1 member appointed by the governor, nominated by trustees. Qualifications for civilian members. I just want to say all of our board members have years of experience and are a wealth of knowledge in many aspects of our system. It's an extremely dynamic and collaborative board, highly dedicated to serving and to problem solving. That being said, our civilian members must have independent, qualified professionals who are responsible for fiduciary duties, preserve and protect the fund, and shall have at least 10 years substantial experience as any one or a combination of the following. And obviously you can see the following right there, but portfolio manager, acting in fiduciary capacity, securities analyst, senior executive, principal of a trust, institution, investment organization, or endowment fund, chartered financial analyst, professor, or instructor at the college or university level in the field of economics, finance, actuarial science, accounting, or pension-related subjects. Economist, senior executive engaged in the field of public or private finances, and a senior executive in insurance, banking, underwriting, auditing, human resources, or risk management. So there's a lot of experience. As I stated before, for the civilian members, we are an extremely diverse collaboration representing all interests and aspects of our system, both the employers and the employees. There is a comprehensive vetting and onboarding process, and our team and board excel in experience and knowledge. PSPRS is made up of the highest qualifications and requirements of any pension system in the state of Arizona. We all have fiduciary duties and take those responsibilities with the utmost trust and respect of being a fiduciary in our capacities. PSPRS Board of Trustees and local boards share the responsibility to operate solely in the interest of members and its beneficiaries, provide benefits to members and beneficiaries. We operate with care, skill, and caution in carrying out duties and limiting the costs in executing our duties to appropriate and reasonable. Also, we have to comply with the laws and the state statutes as set forth. This is the makeup of our board. As you can see, we have our 9-member board. We have Chairman Scott McCarty, who spoke this morning, opened up our conference. Harry Papp, who is our vice chair and oversees the advisory committee. Randy Stein from Cities and Towns, Chris Himman, law enforcement, Brian Moore, firefighter, Dean Shiner, counties, Alan McGuire, Cities and Towns, myself, firefighter, and then Darren Wanderley is police. And next, I was just going to introduce you to the members of our board. But before I do, I just want to say I'm truly honored and proud just to briefly introduce you to my colleagues on the board. First off, we'll start with Scott McCarty. I'm going to leave this up on the screen. You can read it if you want, but I'm going to add a little bit to this. He's the current board chair. He's the finance director of Queen Creek, over 30 years of public service, and a vast amount of experience with pension systems. Darren Wanderley, he's a sergeant with Phoenix Police, 23 years within the Phoenix Police Department, experience in areas of healthcare, and serves on our PSPRS DC committee. Next is Alan McGuire. He was a previous and current board member, extremely involved in experience in government, legislation, financial policy, and tax policies. Consultant and leading economist for the state of Arizona. He was, for a term, the interim director for ASRS, has over 40 years of experience, and also serves on the Audit and Operations Committee. Next would be Chris Himman. He's a chief of staff for DPS. He's managed many budgets for DPS, highly involved in public safety and policy. He also, one of the coolest things, I guess, of Chris lately was he was the lead public safety officer for this year's Super Bowl in Glendale. Brian Moore, I know that you guys were introduced to him. He spoke just before the break. He's a captain with the Phoenix Fire Department, 26 years of service with Phoenix Fire. He's involved in the Phoenix Deferred Comp Board, serves on PSPRS, DC, and cancer insurance committees. He's an expert in workers' compensation. Serves on the Professional Firefighters of Arizona Executive Board, executive board member of Local 493, that's the Phoenix Firefighters. Serves on the Daisy Mountain Fire District Board, and has a wealth of knowledge in PSPRS system and the historical perspectives. Harry Papp. Harry Papp's the managing partner of Elroy Papp and Associates. He's got 40 years of investment and money management experience. He's the chairman of PSPRS Investment Committee, serves in a number of capacities throughout the community. He's the chairman of the Blue Cross Blue Shield, the ASU Foundation board member, and serves on the board of directors for the Phoenix Zoo. Dean Scheinert. Dean has over 30 years of experience with investments in capital markets. Served as a senior vice president for J.P. Morgan Chase Bank as well as U.S. Bank. He's a financial analyst, Wall Street experience, investment chairman of Jewish Community Foundation of Phoenix. He works with many charitable organizations, and he's the chair of our Operations and Audit Committee. Randy Stein, she was a previous and a current board member. She's a wealth of experience on economic, taxation, and policy issues. She's extremely involved at the state legislature and through that process. She works for Stifel in public finance in their department. She is a formal fiscal advisor to the Arizona State Senate and years of experience as an analyst, economist, and budget with the Joint Legislative Budget Committee. I just want to go over real quick some of our board responsibilities. The board is obviously the governing body for the PSPRS plans in accordance with fiduciary duties, state and federal law, and administrative code. We do hire the system administrator and the chief investment officer. Operations are executed by the system administrator. We set agency goals and initiatives. We adopt agency budget, set actuarial assumptions, including assumed earnings rates. We set the investment strategy and asset allocation and investment decisions made by investment staff. We are responsible for financial reports and annual auditing, as well as the annual comprehensive financial report. We'll go through a little bit of the board committee structure. We have our PSPRS Board of Trustees, which I just introduced you to. From that, we do a lot of different committee work just to keep the operations going. We have the Advisory Committee, the Operations and Audit and Governance Committee, Defined Contribution Committee, and the Investment Committee. The four committees I just spoke of, Advisory Committee makes policy recommendations, consists of 10 representatives from state, municipal, and county employers, and plan members and retirees. Chairman Kenny Timms, PSPRS retiree. The Investment Committee is oversight of agency investments, staff, consultants, reviews, and recommends investment strategy and portfolio allocation. And it consists of 4 trustees, with Harry Papp being the chairman of that committee. The Defined Contribution Committee is the oversight of the 401A system that we have in place, as well as the PSPRS 457 DC plan that we have available to members. Recommends plan record keeper, investment options consultant, and benefit education provider. I know right now that committee is working through an RFP process for a record keeper. Consists of trustees, plan members, and staff, and Brian Moore is the current chairman of that committee. The next would be Operations, Audit, and Governance Committee. Dean Scheinert is the chair of that committee, and we provide oversight of agency budgeting, strategic planning, personnel, accounting, actuarial practices, contracts, benefits, administration, and legislation. We also provide the oversight and recommendations concerning system auditing, financial reporting, controls and compliance, and consists of 4 members. Our board and committee meetings, our PSPRS Board of Trustees meets once a month. Typically, it's the last Wednesday of the month. Operations, Audit, Governance, and Investment Committee, we meet on a monthly basis, if not more, if there's something that's going on. Advisory Committee and Defined Contribution meet on a quarterly basis. All meetings are broadcast live via Zoom. All meetings are available to the public and in compliance with open meeting. I wanted to take that time just to go through some of the board operations, some of the Board of Trustees, some of my colleagues, and then just how we're broken down in some of our committees, just to keep the tremendous amount of work moving through this operation. But next I'm going to turn it over to Mike and Clark, and they're going to kind of go through the staff operations of PSPRS.
Thanks, Nate. Before I get into the staff operations stuff, I just want to, from the perspective of staff, talk a little bit about the Board of Trustees. I just think that we have just a tremendous group of individuals on the Board of Trustees at this point in time. Every one of them is deeply involved, committed, and they come to every meeting prepared to discuss the topics of the agenda. And just the experience of the financial background, the finance backgrounds, and then the members such as Nate, they come with a different perspective, but we're all working towards the same goal, right? Just coming from different backgrounds, different perspectives. And that mix, I think, makes it, the decisions of this board improve the outcomes that we have as a result of that. Having the different perspectives come together to achieve a common goal. I'm constantly surprised and maybe not surprised, but just really enjoy the interaction of our board when they're discussing major policy issues, because there's a lot of great minds there that you all ought to be happy to know that you are well represented, whether you're a member or an employer, you're well represented by these guys that are on the Board of Trustees. Just a fantastic group. So I just want to talk a little bit about staff operations, give you a little bit of an idea of how we're structured at PSPRS and what the different areas we have and what we do. Our executive team is made up of Mike Townsend, who spoke earlier at the big group. He's our administrator. I'm the deputy administrator. We have Brett Park, who is an assistant administrator and general counsel, and then Mark Steed, our chief investment officer. So they make up we make up what we call the executive team. Below that we have what we call our leadership team, where we have our biweekly meetings to discuss topics and set policy, those kinds of things. But everything obviously flows up to, and I didn't put an org chart on here. It would just be too big to try to explain. So what we've done here is just sort of identify where the reporting responsibilities lie, and obviously everything rolls up to Mr. Townsend, but he has some other things that he has directly reporting to him, then some are reporting to myself, Brett, and Mark Steed. So directly reporting to the administrator is member services. Robert Ortega, who is the director of member services, you saw him earlier today. And this is sort of what I would call our front line, right? These are the guys that take the calls from members, from employers, from everybody, right? And they're the first person, the first area that usually gets contacted by any of our members. We have that broken down into like the call center, and then we have an active members department that serves about 33,500 members. And then we also have a retired members department, which has about 24,000 retirees and beneficiaries. Also, part of member services is the cancer insurance program. Chairman McCarty mentioned the cancer insurance program earlier today. Another very important part of what we have to administer a great program for our first responders and corrections officers. Then we also have local board and employer relations, and we provide training to local boards, employers. That's another key thing that is taken care of by the member services. They've got a difficult job when you think about it. We have 3 different plans that we're administering. Each of those has 3 tiers, and then we also have defined contribution plans, and all of them are different, right? And so the learning curve for a new, say, call center person or somebody coming in to be on the member services team, it's pretty big. there's a lot to try to learn to get to be an expert at all three plans, all the tiers, and the defined contribution plans. So, you know, if you get somebody who's relatively new, answering the call that you have, and they say, hey, I need to do some research on it, you know, if they're relatively new, that could be a question they hadn't had the chance to get to yet. But I just want to make that impression upon you that it is one of those positions that takes a long time to get fully up to speed. But they do a great job of answering those calls and providing members and employers with great information. Another area that's reporting directly to the administrator is our investment counsel, Jennifer Carlino. She does all the legal negotiations and contracting for 350 investment funds. So these are contracts that are very technical, very specific to the investment world, and you need a lot of specific kinds of knowledge to do that position. Communications, Christian Palmer, who's here with us, he and his area produce all the newsletters that you guys see come out, the website, the email communications, video content. Christian and his team is a very busy area. They're constantly trying to make sure that we provide you all as employers, local boards, or members the information you need to conduct your business and or just answer questions. Investment operations, Vida is over that. She is handling primarily the investment-related accounting. So all these billions of dollars that are being invested have to be accounted for, right? And her team take care of doing that. The information from that flows then to our finance department for financial reporting purposes. But as far as managing the day-to-day operations of the investment accounting, that would be Vida's area. So now we'll get into things that are reporting directly to me. That's finance. John Mormon is our chief financial officer there. Handles all the contribution reporting, pension benefit payroll, about $119 million a month. The reconciliation and research for all those transactions. They're responsible for publishing all of our financial reports, and that includes our ACFR and our popular report that are put out on our website. And then we do employer consultations, which we'll get in a little bit later. I'll have Clark Partridge talk about that and what he does with employers and the services that he's able to provide. Also, information technology, run by Mike Adjemi. They take care of our software development, all of our network security, all the data management that goes on. If you're familiar with our EPIC system, they're responsible for maintaining the current pension administration system, which is called EPIC. Also, we have a human resources area, of course, taking care of hiring for all of our departments and areas, and support to staff, does all of our internal award kinds of programs that we do from time to time, spot awards and other types of recognition, employee recognition that we do for our staff. Then we have what we call facilities and office management. That's run by Lynn. She's sort of the jack of all trades, just office related things, facility related things, takes care of making sure, if something's not working right, that it gets fixed, manages keeps track of all of our contracts and when they're expiring, provides reminder notices to people about them. So she has a lot of varied responsibility. Then we get into Brett Park's area, the Assistant Administrator General Counsel. He has an area under him called the Compliance and Records, which is Angela Egelhoff. She works quite closely with our investment department, ensuring that we comply with all statutory and policy and procedure requirements. And she also is responsible for our records management and retention. And then internal audit also is part of Brett's responsibility. You heard from Kathleen Davis earlier this morning from internal audit and what she does there. So that's sort of our big picture organization structure. We're an agency of about, what are we at, 85, I think now, 85 employees, right, Jack? So grouped into those various categories. Not a large agency by any stretch of the imagination, but not tiny either. So just also want to take some time and talk about some of the major staff initiatives in 2022. You know, every time the law gets changed, we end up having to implement it. And a lot of that takes time and effort to change your IT systems, to change your forms, change your processes, all those kind of things. So lately here we've had the extended drop. Fortunately, they gave us about 6 months from the effective date the legislature did to implement that, because we needed all of that 6 months to make those changes and get that extended drop program working, again, mostly from a technology perspective and a procedural perspective. You know, a lot of times ideas sound really good, and they are really good, but it just takes a little time and effort to get them implemented. We are continuing the phase-in of the cancer diagnosis non-taxable payments. Chairman McCarty mentioned that earlier with our cancer insurance program. And the non-taxable, we're in that first year, so right now we're at, it would be like a 2/3 on those indemnity payments, the 2/3 taxable, 1/3 non-taxable. Return to work changes and local board training requirements also. And then the health insurance subsidy for Tier 3 DC only. That was another one that we had to make some changes to be able to implement. Of course, operational changes that come from the board, like the adjustment to the drop interest calculations and the Tier 1 gap and Tier 2 member contribution rate changes and those refunds. That was a huge undertaking to do all of those refunds. But it was executed, I thought, very well and almost flawlessly to get those dollars back to the employees that were had made over contributions. So just a little plug for PSPRS Communications. You know, newsletter and system updates, sign up for that, right? That's the way to get the information. Most of you probably, you're here, you're the ones that probably already are signed up, but you know, make sure that as new staff come on board, get them to sign up for this. Have your members go there to sign up so they can get the communication that comes out. And there's some contact information here for communications. If you want to sign up your entire area, they'll be happy to assist you in getting people signed up for the website. I'm going to turn it over to Clark right now and have him talk a little bit about the services that he works with employers on. Clark?
Thanks, Mike. Just in case you haven't noticed, from Scott's opening remarks all the way through, there's just some repeating themes that you're going to hear throughout the day. I think hopefully you're getting that message. There's commitment, there's dedication, there's a lot of expertise, and there's a lot of transparency and cooperation and collaboration, whether it's with the advisory committee, supporting employers, supporting our members. that's really a thing that runs deep throughout the organization. And you can see that with the people who present, the attention to detail, and the transparency that they're trying to provide into the organization, because as Mike Townsend said, this isn't our money, it's your money. It is ultimately for the benefit of the members and their beneficiaries, and we want to make sure that that is taken care of. And a big part of all of that is helping you manage your pension obligations. How many of you think that pensions are extremely simple and easy to understand? We have a ringer in the audience, right? Pensions, at their core, some of the basic concepts, once you work with them for a while or for a long time, they become easier as you think about that. But this isn't the thing that you focus on in your lives and your careers. So we're here to help you with those conversations. We're here to be a sounding board. I've had calls, people call me up and say, hey, what do you think about this? People that we've worked with, they already have a strategy and a plan, but then all of a sudden things change. What if we did this? What if we did that? And we're available to have those conversations. Ultimately, these are your decisions. We're here to help give you information so you can make the best decisions that you can. And so we take some of those things that are maybe a little bit complex and overwhelming, and we try to discuss that. What does that mean to you as an organization? How can you use these concepts to help you not only in the ultimate decision making with the policy makers, but also with your own staff, and be able to understand these concepts better, so that when you're having conversations with your board or council members, you can help them understand things from your perspective and how it's really impacting you as an organization. Because your organization is different than somebody else. Somebody else may have already gone out and done a pension financing. Well, now with the higher interest rates, that might not be something that is an option for you at this point in time. For some people, it may still be an option. So, need to understand your situation, your circumstances, your priorities, and how pensions fit within all of the other priorities that you and important things that you have as organizations. As was mentioned, a big part of local government is public safety, police and fire. And so a large part of your budget, a large part of your employee organization is there. So we're here to help you do that efficiently and effectively. If you don't really understand what pension reform did, give us a call. We can walk through that and help you understand how correcting the permanent benefit increase was such a key thing and what a difference that made. And then, but it stopped the hole from being dug deeper, but it still didn't fill the hole. So we need to do that. We'll hear from Brad here with the Foster & Foster actuarial modelers a little bit. But if you have any questions about the use of those, feel free to give me a shout and we can talk through that. As was mentioned earlier today, we've given over 200 conversations or presentations with employers on a fairly extensive level. But there's still a lot of employers that we haven't had conversations with. And those are things that we are going to continue to do outreach on and to be able to make a difference. And here's my contact information. If you have any questions, feel free to give us a call. Any questions for us before we turn it over to Brad?